8:20 p.m., April 15th. This is Hannibal from the Hannibal TV with a daily wrestling news update. I guess one of the reasons WWE has released over 20 wrestlers today and about 9 producers that we know of so far, sounds like there is going to be more cuts. Is going to be that the Saudi Arabia show, they usually get about $30 million per show, from what I understand. And because of the lockdown, we don't even know when the next Saudi Arabia show is going to be. They have said with just the cuts announced today, they're going to save about $4 million a month. Some of these names actually might be brought back. They're not doing house shows right now. So one of the reasons they probably let go of a lot of those producers is there's less events that they need them for at that time. So once house shows come back, they might hire back more producers. I guess they haven't formally announced the NXT releases yet. I don't watch NXT, so I don't know who these people are, but MJ Jenkins and Josiah Williams have also been released, along with writer Andrea Listenberger. So some people said, "Oh, Hannibal, you're pretty harsh on these people." I don't feel bad for wrestlers that have a fun job. In WWE, you make a minimum $100,000 a year. Okay, I actually have a WWE full year's pay sheet I'll review on here sometimes. The developmental wrestlers, a little less, but many of these guys that were released aren't even being used. So they're literally sitting at home being paid to do nothing. I have about 20 friends that have been released from real jobs. Throughout my life, I've wrestled since 2001, but throughout my life, I've had to work 2 to 3 jobs to support myself. Even to this day, I work 2 jobs. If you include, actually, I work more than that if you include all my jobs. So I don't feel bad for people that have a fun, easy job getting released. Some of them even asked for their release. So be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. But no, the most I ever made in wrestling was $500 a week. So feeling bad for people making hundreds of thousands, some possibly over. I understand Gallows and Anderson had pretty huge contracts, and I like Luke Gallows, but I don't feel bad for people that are multimillionaires losing their jobs. I feel bad for the people that really need the money, living paycheck to paycheck, losing their jobs, some of them doing jobs they don't even like. I do believe, someone asked me, who do I think AEW will pick up out of that group? I think Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson. I'm sure they'll use Kurt Angle for something here and there. He would pop a rating. Eric Rowan, I believe they'll use him. Although I'm not a fan of Zack Ryder. Zack Ryder seems to be the type of guy that AEW really likes. Some of you guys commented on my last video, what's my issue with Ryder and Hawkins? I'll make a separate video on that to explain to you. Yeah, you might find them funny, but if you've had personal dealings with them, like I have, you might not think they're so cool. You might think that they're scumbags. Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti told CNN that sporting events, gatherings, and concerts, large gatherings and concerts, might not be allowed in the LA area until 2021. WrestleMania is not scheduled to take place there until March 28, 2021. And as I said before, I reported it a few days ago, Sports Illustrated said it could be 1 to 1.5 years before they allow gatherings with like NHL in front of fans, UFC in front of fans. However, they are going to probably allow sports to operate with no fans in a closed environment. The whole situation sucks. According to the Wrestling Observer Radio, I guess AEW has a budget and they want to be a company that actually makes money. they don't usually operate house shows, so it's not like they're missing out on house show revenues. They are missing out on some live event revenue. Obviously, they're not doing TV tapings in front of a crowd, and they're missing out on probably the merchandise, extra merchandise they'd sell at those events. But they're probably not going to pick up a huge amount of talent just because they're available, because they still want to stay under budget. Dana White says the UFC is going to start running Vegas again in May. If for some reason that doesn't happen, they could always run Florida, because the Florida governor is allowing wrestling and MMA and other sporting events to run without a crowd, as we've seen by the situation with the Performance Center. Someone said that I mentioned in my other post that I didn't think Heath Slater was any good. Sorry, I didn't think he was good. And I didn't think he was that friendly a person when I knew him either. For me, as far as do I hold some jealousy against people that have made hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars doing what would have been my dream job? Yes, I do. And yes, as a wrestler, I think I'm better than the majority of people that were released. So that's just the way I feel. Call it jealousy, but I genuinely feel I am better. And I also feel that my name will go down in history in the wrestling business more than the majority of those people, just because I'm going to be involved in the wrestling business my whole life through interviews, through promoting my own events, wrestled lots of top stars in my career, did a lot of stuff in my career. So I have the entitlement and right to have an opinion. Richard M says Eric Rowan has a great look, but can he wrestle? I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen him wrestle. But I do know that he's Luke Harper's buddy, and Luke Harper's in AEW. Mark Montoya says WWE can go to hell. I agree. Fuck them. Their product sucked. Travis, did Rusev seriously get released? Yes, he did. And yeah, I find that funny that he say what you want. If he doesn't find that they humiliated him with that angle of Lashley making out with his wife week after week and then fired him, if you guys don't think they had something against him, that's funny, because you know what? Out of respect for the guy, if you tortured him doing that with his wife, like, you're going to fire him like a couple months after. That's pretty brutal. Maybe he liked it. Maybe he didn't have any issue with it. We'll see. Someone commented on the last video, he predicts they'll be divorced within 2 years. Why isn't Eric Rowan in Braun Strowman's position? I don't know. I saw they fired one writer. They should fire all their writers. The writing for that show is horrible. Martin G, most will come back. Some wanted to be released and go elsewhere. Exactly. So those people get their wish. Mike and Maria Kanellis have supposedly been released. Mike Kanellis had been wanting his release. He was complaining about sitting at home making tons of money. I say be appreciative of that, because when you have to go back to working a regular job, you'll realize how good you have it. I've worked some fucking shitty jobs in my life. Sawmill, working with developmentally delayed adults that attacked you, severely dangerous ones. I've been a bouncer for 15 years. I've worked shitty security jobs. So you know what? You people, maybe you'll appreciate what you had a little bit more. T. Smith, what's my opinion of Virgil? My opinion is his agents suck. His agents refused to have him do an interview with me. So he should. A lot of these wrestlers have terrible agents, by the way. Just awful agents. Where are they going to go? Mr. Antonio 2005 said, well, there's other companies. I don't know how much the other companies are going to be hiring. Ring of Honor is not running events. MLW is not running events. New Japan Pro Wrestling's not running events, but I'm sure they all have good severance packages. I'm sure at least there'll be some continued money coming in for those guys, and they can look for real jobs like the rest of us. Mark Montoya, I should have been signed by WWE. Mr. Antonio, 2005, Indies and AEW won't be able to afford all those guys. Well, also keep in mind there's no indie companies running right now, but most of those guys, some of them had 15 years of WWE pay. They'll be just fine. Mark Montoya says I should have $1 million contract. Lawrence P. Sella, who will Impact pick up? They, as I said, I don't think there's going to be big hiring sprees by any companies until this lockdown is over. But yeah, they aren't going to be able to afford for all those guys. Yeah, no, not all those companies will. Did I ever do a Lex Luger part 2? Jonathan Fox asked. Not yet, but I will. I really like Lex Luger. Grand Imperial Yankee, any chance these releases have to do with losses over the XFL? Sure. It has something to do with that? Sure. Definitely. Tyler H. says, David Von Erich was my uncle. If that's true, that's really cool. Let me know if you have any stories about him. Travis, do I still watch the product weekly? No. If something major happens, I'll look it up on YouTube or Twitter. I follow the news. The news is interesting to me. I don't like the product. I don't like the current product. Richard M says EC3 in New Japan would be good for him. Who knows? I met EC3 once at an Impact taping. Other than that, I know nothing about him. He has a good physique. Chillheads, you need to win the 70 million Lotto Max and make Great North Wrestling huge. Yeah. I wish someone would back Great North Wrestling. I've always funded it on my own money. And guess what? It has been a success. I've been running it for 13 years, but I'm not going to run in this situation either. You can't. Priest Fan 81, if you feel bad for these wrestlers, you have an easy life. Yes. If you actually work for a living, a real job where you have to get up and work 8 to 12 hours every day, you're not going to feel bad for wrestlers who most of them love their job. It's been their dream job. In WWE, you get catering, you fly all over the world, you have medics backstage, you make like hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. Sam Lentz says WWE and AEW are unwatchable. What is the most I paid for a wrestling interview? Rob Johnson. I don't want to say that. The most I paid for an interview so far was Tito Ortiz, and let's just say it didn't make its money back. Chillheads says, I'm a great promoter. Thank you. Boost Malaka says he's sure Superstar Billy Graham has great stories. There's 3 interviews with Superstar Billy Graham on this channel. I suggest you all look them up. Neo's GX01 says he stopped watching WWE in 2010. He's 24 now. Fuck WWE. He plans to keep it that way. Thanks for all the interesting videos and interviews. Thank you. Dr. Love says, seems like WWE wrestlers had a much better contracts than the XFL coaches did. How many of these guys do I think will be signed by one of the other companies? Over time, probably the majority of them through the various companies. A lot of them probably won't make. I don't know. All their value is gone now. Because, for instance, they don't have much bargaining tools now for AEW if WWE has released them, because Ring of Honor and MLW don't pay anywhere near what AEW pays. So it's like AEW could pick up some of the top guys of that list for probably a lot less than they would have before WWE released them. Can I do a shoot interview with Barry Orton? Rolo555 said, sure. Bambi Killer. If that's the real Bambi Killer, hey, how are you going? How are you doing? What's your guess? Who of those guys will work for Brian Dixon anytime soon? Is Brian Dixon still running during all this, Bambi Killer? Brian Dixon, for those of you who don't know, is an English promoter. Bambi Killer is a wrestler popular in Europe. I believe his name is Chris Raber. I've never met him, but I've talked to him a few times. He's a good wrestler from what I've seen of him. Tyrone Edge says, I wouldn't be surprised to see Gallows Anderson back in New Japan. Those guys will be just fine. Don't worry about those boys. Mark Montoya, how about an interview with Lance Storm? Not opposed to it. I know him, but most of these guys will probably have clauses in their contract where they can't do interviews for at least 3 months. A lot of them are probably going to get months of pay still. It's not like you're fired and you get nothing. Priest Fan 81 says AEW is shit. Matt R, do I think I could get shoots with any of these folks? As I just said, most of them probably have 3 months or so where they can't do anything like that. But I'm sure some of them I'll get eventually. Was Tony Atlas a nice guy? Rob Johnson says, yes, he was. The Patty Cake says he'd like to see everyone back to work soon. I would too, especially the real people that really need the money, not the multi-millionaires of the world. So have a good night, everyone. Thanks for all your questions and comments. Eric King says he loves my interview with Kamala. Thank you. Thank you very much.